I'm gonna be working with Castor on grooming again, so I'm just brushing more than I did before. I just kind of introduced the brush to him last time. Now I'm brushing more on his back and his hindquarters and by his tail, and I'll go down his legs. But he's handling it quite well. This is just kind of the progress that we made. I'm doing more than just like 1 or 2 strokes, so he's definitely getting better at that. So I'm gonna go down his leg a little bit, and he's really staying relaxed. His head next level. He's chewing his hay and being great. So I'm just gonna kind of show everybody the overview and kind of see how he's doing. But really, I'm pretty happy with all of this, and I've done all my homework, so it should work out well. Sometimes that's not how it goes, but like I think in the last video or two, I used the dressage whip and touched all down his legs, and I touched his legs with my hands, and so the next step is the brush. So he's really taking it all in stride and doing great with it. And I really did want to brush him too, because he's not white, he's palomino, but he's very, very light. So he's very dirty all the time. I'm just like, I need to clean all of this off of you. So you might have to have a little bit of a search in finding a good brush too. It just kind of depends on the horse. Like this one, I just start off with one that's really soft. And some can find these like kind of ticklish. You might not like something a little bit harder. It just depends on the horse. Some might like a really hard brush. It kind of depends. So I'd play around, see what they like best. Really, Castor just likes being brushed. So he doesn't really care too much about what kind I'm using, but do take that into account when you're starting off. And that could be if you're just brushing, like maybe you have a foal or yearling or something. But in my case, a Mustang. So definitely in the case of a Mustang or like a feral horse, but definitely make sure you have different options and kind of see what they like. And same goes for if you have a horse with just a baggage or a history or something like that, like the mare in the background, the bay in the background has problems with being brushed that you'll see in her video series. But this is her brush. She actually really likes this soft one, so that's just important as you go. But he's making great strides here. Like, I love this. I can brush all down his hindquarters. His head hasn't moved at all. Like, he's not getting tight, he's not getting tense, he's not lifting his head above the withers, he's not pinning his ears. He looks great. And yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say. It's really going quite well, exactly like I planned. I know that's not always how it works, but for him it did. As far as grooming, I think for Atlas it did too. Other things I had to kind of rearrange my plans on, but this did work out well because I just do this in like sections. So I kind of brush a little bit on his hip, I work my way down, and then I work my way all the way down his hind legs. So I just kind of do little pieces together. I do shorter amounts of brushing or shorter like amount of strokes of brushing. So you see me do like a couple strokes back here, but I'll do more kind of on his shoulder and his neck, just because this is the newest part for him. And like I'll step back, give him a moment. Sometimes I'll click and not feed, and it kind of just depends. For horses, it seems to work better if I do that. So, or sometimes I won't click at all, just back up, give him a moment, because that really helps him. If I'm not that close to him all the time, that also wouldn't be a break for maybe a domestic horse. So, but those are some of the things I'm doing with him right now. And unfortunately, I have a poor angle here, so you can't really see me brush down his leg. I need to move the camera next time, but I am brushing like down his hock and just down to his pastern. And so he is letting me brush all the way down his hind leg. So, and then I won't show you the other side because it's the same exact process. So it's the same thing. So we don't need to see both of it, but okay, now we're working with the jelly scrubbers, like curry comb kind of thing. I prefer this over the curry comb. I just like it. So I feel like it's a little bit softer. It has like those two sides. So I use this, but I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the brush. So I'm not going to like talk through that. I'm just going to fast forward through the jelly scrubber part, but do be careful that you don't just, okay, well, he's fine with the body brush, so I'm just gonna go ahead and brush his whole body with a curry comb or this or whatever different kinds of brushes. I would definitely, if you have a Mustang or something feral or really young or has an aversion to brushing, would make sure that they're comfortable with every single brush on every single part of their body. don't assume anything. So just make sure that you do that. Okay, well, I guess I'm not gonna brush all of him. I thought I was gonna go through the whole body, but I guess we're just introducing the beginning of it. So now I'm gonna use the brown brush, or the hairbrush, the main brush, and just kind of get him used to that sound again. He was a little bit worried about it in the last video when I first introduced him to it. He like jumped to the side. So even just the next time he's seen it is so much better. So I definitely like that. Again, I have a poor angle here, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. And you can still see him, so he is getting better. But yeah, it's really important that they get used to that sound of the brush. There, yeah, he had like very little reaction there. That was perfect. Before you actually go and comb their hair. So now I'm gonna start getting closer and closer, and then I'll do like one little comb. And really, like when I'm moving my hand on it there, it's gonna be much louder than when it actually goes through his hair. So I'm just kind of setting him up so that he's successful here. So I'll get a little bit closer and do a couple more times. So I'm just making the sound, and then I'll feed. And you might want to make the sound and click and feed. It kind of depends, because you can counter condition and just not click if they get really excited about it. It just kind of depends on your horse and how worried they are about something. He's really caught on to this quite well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do one little brush and go ahead and click and feed him. Just getting my hay together for him. But yeah, that was a non-event, and that's how all of the stuff should look like if you've prepared enough. And then hopefully if you do see the tension before something happens, then you can go a few steps back and do that as well. But yeah, he looks fantastic. I love that. And I really wanted to get a comb in his mane and get that figured out. His wasn't as bad as Atlas's. He doesn't have really thick hair, and it's not super long. Atlas's had like wind knots in it, and that was kind of driving me crazy. But if there's something about their hair, I just want to brush their hair. So, but okay, so I have a different angle here so you can see a little bit better. But yeah, this is better. Just kind of see his like facial body language. His head and neck's pretty level. His ears are good. Like they're not pinned back. They're not real tense. He's not shut down or frozen. He's like, they're moving, and he's listening, and he's chewing and taking the food. So all of that is fantastic. I'm just gonna kind of work my way down the mane and make sure that he's cool with all of that. And you're gonna see a lot of like rapid rewards and rapid feeding, especially in the beginning. Even if you've had your horse forever and they're trained and they know a bunch of stuff, even if you have one like that, but you're starting a new obstacle or a new movement or something, you're gonna want to reward a ton in the beginning. It's just really important for them to feel really successful, and then they're gonna want to do that behavior just on their own because it's rewarding. So then half the battle's gone, and you can easily start reducing the amount of reinforcement that you give, so that you don't have to feed at that high rate the whole time. But it just seems really helpful for pretty much all the horses. For all the horses I've trained doing pretty much everything. So, but I'm gonna let him hang out and then go ahead and brush some more. I think coming up here, he was a little weird about his forelock. Didn't really want the brush up like between his ears, like on his forehead. So it's gonna be a little bit scarier since I can't, like, it was kind of like a little blind spot. Yeah, he got a little scared there. And for a while, like, he'd be weird about you like petting him there. He was cool with like haltering for the most part once he figured that out. But like, you know, if I want to mess with his forelock or something, he'd be like, kind of look at you, or he'd not pin his ears but put them back a little bit. So since he's a little weird about that and doesn't really love that, I'm just gonna let him target the brush so that he's the one initiating the touch. So it's the same thing that I did when he didn't want me to touch his ears, and I just put my hand out And yep, so I'll just kind of target that. And he moved his head a little bit away. I probably should have waited a little bit there and see if he would just bring his face to it, because he's kind of avoiding me there. So I want to recognize that and just give him space, because even if I just kind of move my hand back a little bit and see if he'll come to me, or even if I wait a little bit, there he has like less head turn there. There we go. There he went ahead and touched his face to it on his own. But same thing, instead, like if they're moving away or they're raising their head up and being tense, I'm gonna wait and then have them target me if they know how to target like their body parts and stuff. So that's what I'm doing with this. And he's just, there we go. And then he brings his face to it. That looks awesome. But the protective contact makes me not have to like chase his head and be like, okay, come here, hold still, because he'll just leave. And then that's helping me get out of my like negative reinforcement background and like my habits and stuff. And then I get back into just, okay, well, I need to, instead of chasing, I need to go back and step away from him, give it a minute, and then ask him to come to me. That always works much better. So I like that. He's making progress. And he's doing a lot more in these sessions now. Like I'm brushing him with different things. He's seeing other things. He's learning more exercises. Like in the beginning, he did like 1 or 2 things. Now he's really getting a lot more stuff done, because once he knows some things, it kind of all build on each other. So that's pretty cool too, because I actually start feeling like I'm doing something and getting something accomplished with him, because the Mustangs have always been and still are a work in progress, just because I'm learning, they're learning. I didn't have a ton of time with them, so we're always experimenting with them, but it was definitely worth it. So, and I like how he just wants to hang out for hay, and he's a little like not a huge fan of having his forelock brush, but he'll go ahead and put his face on it. It's pretty cool. So again, and I'm going to start doing little strokes with the brush. So I just had him target it a few times, and then I'm just going to do little tiny strokes with the brush and click as I'm moving it, and then feed him. So I'm just building it up from there. To wait for him. Good, and I'll do the stroke, click while I'm doing the stroke, and then I'll feed him. It looks awesome. I'm really happy with his progress for sure. I want to do a little bit on his tail, because I do want to brush that tail as well. So I'm gonna work on doing that a little bit soon. So I'm just gonna start at the top. I want to make sure he's cool with me standing here, make sure he's cool with that sound first, because I know he's heard it, but he's like also seen it. When I do that with the brush at first, it was really close to his face. I was working on brushing his mane. So I want to make sure that he's cool with that behind him on his hindquarters, because usually noises are scarier when they're behind the horse. They want to jump forward, they want to kick out or something. So I want to make sure that he's cool with that before I ever do it. I know the fence is there, but still, he's a wild horse. He could do something crazy, so we don't know. We don't want to take any chances. So again, start off really slow. I love that. He was just chewing his hay, just hanging out. That's perfect. And then from there, I'll work on this a little bit. I do the sound, and he kind of moved a little bit. That wasn't too bad. But I just want to start doing just little sessions where I brush the top of his tail. Then I'll go ahead and start getting like more petting right behind him, and then moving that tail to my side, and then I'll start brushing his tail. So that's kind of the process there. That was really good. Yeah, he's been fantastic, and he probably part of it is that he does love being brushed so much. It might be a little bit more difficult on one that doesn't really enjoy being touched or brushed. So like Atlas was a little bit harder. I think he does like being groomed now, but he definitely doesn't love it as much as Castor does. So you can watch that one and kind of see the difference.